I have a simple question to ask everyone out there who happens to be a fan of movies on the internet and a pundit of movies on the internet and just a moviegoer in general. When in God's name did it become acceptable to completely trash a film and celebrate its downfall? I mean that in the most literal of ways. Like, we know that when it comes to chuds, the chuds love to celebrate any downfall that might back up their narrative. They'll never celebrate a success because that means they can't grift their audience for more money. But what about when it comes to the mainstream entertainment media that's doing the exact same thing here? This headline from Slash Film: The Marvel's box office goes from bad to worse with a catastrophic second weekend drop. It's not just these guys. It's a wide variety of other people doing the exact same thing. And it just makes me really question why in God's name you're in this business to begin with. Why in God's name do you want to talk about movies when all you seem to care about is whether or not one has a good weekend at the box office or a bad weekend at the box office? Oh, yeah. Here's why. Because you have nothing else to talk about and you realize that your jobs are bad. I think we need to have that conversation. I really do. When you start getting to a point when you look at a very overloaded weekend like this one, and let's make no mistake, the studios, they got to figure all this out, right? They got to figure out what it is they want to do. They got to figure out what it is they need to do in order to space out these releases so you don't have The Marvels, the new Hunger Games movie, Trolls 3, Thanksgiving, Taylor Swift, I think, is still in theaters. I'm not too certain what's going on with that one. You've got Wish opening up on Wednesday. Never mind whatever else is coming down the pipeline for the holiday season. And you wonder, with this overloaded, overstuffed, bloated weekend, why movies aren't doing as well as they could. Is it because there's just an abundance of woke, terribly written, god-awful movies out there? No, the answer to that is no. That's not the case at all. It's just that people simply are choosing to not go. Why? Because there's too many options. I'll give you a key piece of example here. Okay. Have you ever gone to Netflix and just wanted to watch something, but really didn't have anything in mind? And so you just start endlessly scrolling through the list, hoping that something pops up and catches your attention. And then you're like, well, that one looks good, but we'll come back to that. Maybe there's something else there that I want to see as well, only to realize after about 30 minutes that no, you should have just gone with that first choice, but now you're 30 minutes later, you don't really want to watch anything that you have to commit to, so you just go back to watching reruns of Seinfeld or whatever other popular show is on any of the popular streaming services. So you don't watch anything you want to watch because you spend so much time just going through all the options. And that ends up being a big problem for the average consumer. Now apply that back to movie theaters. You're like, man, I'd love to go see a movie this weekend. Oh man, there's so many choices and I want to see them all, but I don't have the money. And you got Thanksgiving coming up and you got to prep for that. And you got to go to the store and maybe people are traveling and kids have school and yada, 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 all these issues. So what do? Oh yeah, you just, I'll go home and maybe I'll just watch something on TV, or I'll watch something on my phone, or I just won't watch anything because there's too many choices. It's a weird thing to talk about, but it's absolutely true. And it ties in to the overall discourse going back to this kind of headline. The headline that celebrates a movie having an 80% drop in its second weekend when going up against literally another family film, another legacy prequel movie, and also Trolls 3, that's the family film, right? And then you have Wish coming out in a couple days, which is a new IP from Disney. So again, there's all these things to consider, all these things to talk about, all of these things to remember. And yet they still have to have headlines like this. I think we need to come to the realization on a couple different things. The chuds have won because mainstream press is now acting like them. But why have the chuds won? The chuds have won not because they're right. They're never right about practically anything. Like literally, you can debunk them with against any of their simplest arguments because they're never based in reality. It's like the people that go, January 6th was simply just a walk through the rotunda. It was a guided tour by security guards. Not at all the case. Not at all the argument to be made, but they try to hold on to that. They try to believe it because they need the confirmation bias and they need the cognitive dissonance to tell themselves that the lie is the truth. And in the case of this kind of reporting from mainstream entertainment media, it's the exact same thing. It's not new, mind you. This isn't a new phenomenon, but it's just one that I want to call out. We know that when it comes to the media, if it bleeds, it leads, right? We know that that's true after all, since the beginning of time. But instead of actually trying to approach a movie, a show, a tale, a story, a yarn, if you will, from the perspective of, hey, I was entertained by this, and maybe try to shift the conversation, to shift it from negative to positive, might actually talk some people into going and seeing the movie. It's kind of weird how that works out, right? Kind of odd how that particular mindset plays out, don't you think? A little bit weird, a little bit wild, a little bit crazy. That if you talk to somebody about something in the positive, it might change and alter their mindset, so they want to go and engage with it in the positive. I mean, it is a wildly fanatical and radical concept, but my God, folks, if you try it, you just might find yourself having more fun when going to see something. So instead of going like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch it, you go, well, you know what? I want to give this one a try. And I'm just going to go in sight unseen, and maybe I'll have myself a good time. And maybe I'll talk to my friends about it. Or maybe my friends have mentioned this one to me. Something along those lines. Something like we used to do back in the day before the internet, when we'd go to the video rental store and we would simply pick a movie based upon the cover art, the title, and maybe like 2-3 screen grabs from the back of the film, from the back of the box. That was it. Now you want to know how much money the writer was paid in his residual breakdown for the entirety of the run of the movie before you even decide to take a look at it through any kind of critical lens. It's weird how we are with that now. And that's one of the reasons why I'm moving away from talking about a lot of movie news and talking about films in the positive with Patio commentary. And if you don't know what that is my series where I break down movies. I give you my thoughts and my opinions. I talk about the production history, and then I invite you to call in and leave your voicemails or maybe even join in the live stream conversation in order to have those discussions, to maybe get into the deeper meaning of what a movie is, or to maybe open up somebody's eyes to something that predominantly they might have overlooked. This isn't an ad for my podcast, but it's an idea that I'm putting in motion in order to try to change some minds. We don't spend a lot of our lives engaging with entertainment to just want to turn around and hate it. Yet right now, that is the big deal. That is what people are out there seeing. I think enough is enough. I think it's time to shut down a lot of these websites. I think it's time to say no more. Don't engage with it. Don't fall for the trap. Don't click on the bait. And go and watch something that you might be curious about. Read a synopsis. Maybe read an overview, something. Give an idea, not even read that. Just don't watch a trailer. Maybe look at a poster or synopsis or whatever and just go, you know what? That looks interesting enough. I'll give it a shot. And who knows, you might be entertained. But in the meantime, ignore headlines like this that are trying to denigrate the art by attaching its value to whether or not it does well during a crowded box office season at the tail end of 7 months of striking when actors were unable to promote their work. Never mind the 2 years of a pandemic that shut a lot of it down right before that. The people who are out there trying to destroy the idea and the interpretation of the art that you love are not worth your time or attention. And I think deep down, a lot of you know that. I just hope you take your own advice, you take my advice, and you look for something more fun rather than something that makes you feel like shit, which is what articles like this and headlines like this are designed to do.